Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. There comes a time when there is no longer fear more than doing nothing for the future of our generation. A generation that will have no land or no appetite for farming because it has been destroyed by the powerful who use government resources and are protected by the very same system. South Africans, especially those in rural communities, are used as pawns, voting for people who continuously turn against them in pursuit of political party interest and personal gain. There comes the time when living becomes meaningless without purpose, when it is reduced to self-serving individualism and looking the other way. There comes a time when loyalty is not only aligned to an individual, but also to our patriotic duties, which must stand above political power. We apologize to the communities with whom we have had to reduce communication or temporarily put aside because we have been occupied by the deadly struggles facing the agricultural sector. When the issues affecting the agricultural sector were first brought to us around June 2025, we were already attending to numerous communities on matters relating to SAPS, brutality, failures within the Department of Health and Service Deliveries, crises affecting many wards. However, we realized that as we are neither government nor a charity organization capable of assisting everyone in need, we had to assess where our intervention could have the greatest impact. We agreed that strengthening the agricultural sector could help heal communities, provide safety net for both rural and urban households, and contribute to food security. We witnessed this in Iguamosi, where agricultural helped save a community that was under severe conflict with the Onyamo community in Guanongoma, KwaZulu-Natal, while also facing police brutality. We apologize to the community of Kwashisuti in Nongoma, who call us every day about a school that could collapse on learners at any moment, while many children are still being taught under the trees as the MEC of Department of Education in KwaZulu-Natal continue to ignore their plight. We apologize to the mother whose 23-year-old daughter was left paralyzed following treatment at Ngonjeni Hospital, while the MEC of Department of Health remains indifferent to the life she vowed to protect. We also apologize to another young woman in a similar situation in Pietermaritzburg. We apologize to the community of Ndodwane in Mbangeni, where residents continue to share drinking water with livestock and still rely on bushes for sanitation. We apologize to the young single mothers whose employment has been terminated by major companies, include Minetech, Smart Mining, after they spoke out about the pornography-related practices in the workplace. We apologize to the Rootfest community in Gomas in Mpumalanga, which continues to live without water despite annual budget allocations that include them. We apologize to the residents of the city of Johannesburg who continue to wait for us to finalize legal processes concerning their electricity and billing crisis. We also apologize to every other person whose matter we had to place on hold in order to focus on what we believe is one of the most painful and deadly issues confronting our country. This year, we have resolved to focus solely on this matter, while hoping that those entrusted with the presidency will develop the conscience to protect the nation in accordance with the oath they took and the responsibility they accepted upon assuming office. We also apologize to the 21 families in Bareki, Limpopo, who continue to live without electricity, One of these families has now endured 17 years without electricity after the Ephraim Mohale local municipality refused to install an electricity connection. We apologize to Lulwane community and the surrounding villages within Gwamhlabialingana local municipality whose repeated cries to have the D1834 road upgraded have been ignored by KwaZulu-Natal Premier and MEC for Department of Roads and Transport. We further apologize to Namahale community in Limpopo, whose clinic continues to operate without adequate resources or sufficient space. Despite this ongoing crisis, both the Department of Health and Bapalabora local municipality have remained silent and have failed to provide the urgent intervention needed to address the crisis, the clinic's challenge. Farm dwellers, farm workers, and emerging farmers continue to face long-standing barriers to land access, funding, infrastructure, and support. Officials in the Department of Land Reform, Department of Agriculture are failing to uphold principles of honesty, transparency, and accountability across the country. Specific concerns include racism, economic exclusion, and subjection to white supremacy. The absence of a capable state in rural areas where basic services such as water, electricity, road, housing, and post-harvest facilities remain unavailable, and a lack of oversight, with officials protecting one another instead of addressing public complaints. The Department of Agriculture runs various funding and support programs aimed at emerging farmers. However, applicants experience poor communication, no guidance on the approval criteria, and collusions where officials defend one another, making it difficult for Black emerging farmers to obtain answers or launch complaints. This breakdown creates financial uncertainty, wastes farmers' resources, and undermines trust in government programs. The impact is severe. Economic stagnation, continued vulnerability for farm dwellers and farm workers, loss of confidence, and perpetuation of inequality is real, affecting livelihoods of the farming community. After 32 years of democracy, white people are still having the power to pull down the fences and demolish houses of farm dwellers and occupy their land for themselves. It is disheartening that some of the very same officials who were in exile or form part of leadership that experienced the apartheid regime have turned the victory of 1994 into power that has resulted in what many believe to be an even worse government. Fellow South Africans, it is not about immigrants who are in our country illegally, but our government which has failed our nation. This is about greed amongst government officials at local, provincial, and national level. It is about the extreme arrogance of the national government and the gatekeepers who brief and direct those who you voted into power. It is about money stolen from taxpayers and used to empower handlers, runners, and their masters. These masters are often not ministers or presidential leaders, but gatekeepers who collect money from businesses in the name of the offices in which they work and blackmail them into complying. If they dare not to comply, they lose their business statuses. Fellow South Africans, we have the likes of Minister of Mineral Resources, Mr. Gwede Mantashe, who has stated that South Africans are lazy. It is reported that he owns farms and livestock. It is further reported that he has a handler who manages his livestock and he receives from the state, and he also have access to other state resources and has interests linked to mineral resources in his name. It is further reported that the department is responsible for sabotaging licenses for black farmers, leaving them unable to farm productively. We have the Speaker of Parliament, Mayor Didiza, whose name is alleged to be linked to millions of rands within the agricultural sector. Reports refer to the name of Kagiso as alleged leading the syndicate, with funds allegedly prevented from being returned to the National Treasury and instead laundered through service providers. It is further alleged that she owns farms together with her relatives and that some of those farms are leased to white farmers. We have the likes of the KwaZulu-Natal MEC for Department of Roads and Transport, Mr. Smoniso Duma, who reportedly purchased one of his farms for approximately 9 million in cash from a white farmer. It is further reported that the MEC, who owns several other farms, with assistance from the former head of Department of Agriculture, Mr. Zibusiso Dlamini, who has since been transferred and now serves as the HOD of the KwaZulu-Natal Department of Roads and Transport. It is also reported that cattle were purchased using CASP funds and were kept on a Newcastle farm, which were sold a few days later for 4 million by the former HOD of the Department of Agriculture and the current HOD of the Department of Roads and Transport, Mr. Sibusiso Dlamini, allegedly through his wife. It is further reported that 7 million was paid through CASP funds to a company linked to the former acting of Department, Mr. Sibusiso Mnyeza, in Amajuba District, Newcastle, within the KwaZulu-Natal Department of Agriculture and Rural Development. It is reported that Dr. Siyabonga Madlala, the SAFDA CEO's brother, Mr. Kaelihle Blessing Madlala, has interests represented within Parliament's Portfolio Committee, where he is alleged to be protecting the interests of individuals, politicians, and entities linked to them. It is also reported that former ANC Provincial Secretary Mr. Begin Dolo has been influential in the affairs of the Kokstad area, where farm dwellers and farm workers have reportedly been evicted to make way for business people and former councillors connected to these networks. According to these reports, some families who had lived and worked on these farms for decades have been displaced, and some of them are now living on the streets surrounding the very same farms they once occupied. It is also reported that instead of supporting local communities to become self-sufficient through access to and productive use of agricultural land, residents are being mobilized through the redistribution of food parcels and other activities rather than being empowered to sustain themselves through farming as means of improving their livelihoods. We have areas such as Mkagezweni in the Eastern Cape and Gasman in the Northern Cape, where police are said to be involved in criminal activities and owning farms above farmers and the communities they serve. While people are being killed like animals in the process. It cannot be that people are expected to live in fear of speaking out about matters involving prominent families. This is not fundamentally about the prominent families. It is about the corruption involving certain government officials within the agricultural sector who are reported to unfairly redistributing state-owned farms to individuals who provide kickbacks and other unlawful benefits. There are prominent families that are well-known and wealthy business people in the KwaZulu-Natal, often described as the Stellenbosch of KZN because of their business success and influence. The concern is not that successful black business people have acquired farms unlawfully. That would be an unfair and unfounded generalization. Rather, the issue being raised is the alleged conduct of certain government officials who hide behind influential and respected individuals while engaging in wrongdoing. Any allegations of misconduct should be directed at those responsible and supported by credible evidence, rather than assuming that successful black families have acquired their assets illegally. However, the government has failed to address these concerns. It is therefore wrong to create the perception that people should fear speaking out or raising legitimate concerns simply because certain individuals are influential or hold prominent status. It is a democratic society. No person should be beyond public scrutiny or accountability. Officials are hiding behind dangers around mentioning their names. It is about them, their corrupt activities, not these families. This is purely inciting violence from their part. If officials are taking money from Rupert and the likes, let us mention without fear of being killed. In a democratic society, everyone should be able to express themselves freely and hold those in positions of influence accountable, provided it is done responsibly and based on facts. It has been reported that these families wield significant influence within the agricultural sector. It is reported that certain well-known public officials facilitate or protect these activities in exchange for cash payments and favors and other favors. Furthermore, it is alleged that companies linked to these families have acquired or been allocated numerous state-owned farms. According to these reports, these farms allocations may constitute the proceeds of corrupt relationships between private individual and public officials, where state resources are distributed as kickbacks. It is reported that this network of corruption has created an environment of fear and intimidation, with some claiming that those who challenge these practices face serious threats incited by government officials. We invite the media to investigate the farmer production support units, what is called FPSUs, funded by the Department of Agriculture and Land Reform under the leadership of the Director General, Mr. Mugetsa Ramasodi. Approximately about 220 million rands was allocated to this program, yet only 2 FPSUs are reported to have been partially completed, while 4 remain incomplete. These FPSUs projects were led by the SAFDA CEO, Dr. Siyabonga Madlala, the KwaZulu-Natal Chief Director of Land Reform and Rural Development, Mr. Nhlanhla Mndaweni, and others. It is also noted that an additional budget of approximately 67 million allocated for farming implements resulted in the purchase of substandard equipment, while some items recorded on paper were never recorded on paper were never delivered, but there is fraudulent case already open on this matter. We invite members of the media to visit KwaXhwabe, Dingindlovu, and Sezela to inspect these incomplete facilities for themselves. According to the report, these unfinished projects stand as evidence of resources that were squandered while small-scale growers continue to struggle. They further contend that instead of receiving meaningful support, many farmers are used as pawns to defend leaders who show little regard for their welfare. The paper trail exists. Follow the money. We believe that a thorough investigation into SAFDA and the 14 demands that we submitted to the presidency will reveal the full extent of all these allegations, these reports, and identify those who are involved, including individuals in senior and executive positions within government. The sugarcane industry, SASA, reportedly contributed 17 million for yellow plant equipment intended to support black small-scale growers. We call on the media to establish where this equipment is being kept, as our reports reveal that farmers have never seen or benefited from it. It is alleged that some of the equipment only appeared during a media showcase around April 2024 for public display and then disappeared, allegedly being returned to the rightful owners from whom it had been hired. We call on Mr. Francis Munsami to account for the whereabouts of this equipment. It is further reported that a farm known as Beneva was allocated to SAFDA by officials, including Mrs. Amamulifi and Mr. Tlantlam Ndaweni, without an open and transparent bidding or advertising process. According to these allegations, the farm was effectively awarded as a benefit to the SAFDA CEO, Dr. Madlala, who is currently operating it on the South Coast. It is reported that farms such as Kobeni Farm are managed by Mr. David, who is reported acting as a handler on behalf of certain government officials. According to the reports, the state purchased this farm from a white farmer, after which farm dwellers were offered financial compensation to vacate the property. It is further reported that those who wish to use the farm are now required to rent it from Mr. David. It is reported that Mr. Apane in the Northwest, who is reported affiliated with AFASA, has repeatedly received grants from the Northwest Department of Agriculture without submitting required applications, and acted as a handler in the allocation of agricultural grants, warranting an independent investigation into possible irregularities and abuse of public funds. It is reported that an abattoir near Lichtenburg was funded with millions of rands by the Northwest Department of Agriculture during Dr. Desmond Mohono's tenure as the MEC. The project is reported to have benefited Dr. Obakeng Mfikwe, an AFASA Northwest executive, and to have served as a front for certain politicians, including Dr. Mohono, who is now the Speaker of the Northwest Provincial Legislature. These reports require an independent investigation. These allegations point to what many black emerging farmers believe is a deeply entrenched pattern of corruption, looting, and abuse of public resources within the agricultural sector. We therefore call on President Cyril Ramaphosa to institute an independent investigation into these matters. The 14 demands that were submitted to the Deputy Minister in the Presidency, Ms. Nonqeba Mhlawuli, on behalf of Deputy President Paul Mashatile, contain information and supporting material which we believe warrant an urgent investigation. It is unfortunate that Deputy Minister Nonqeba Mhlawuli has stated that these reported acts of looting and corruption are not the government's biggest problem. The Izwi Labantu Forum will, where possible, present evidence of what it is reported to be long-standing corruption, abuse of office, and the irregular allocation of funds under the proactive land acquisition strategy program administered by the Department of Land Reform of Agriculture, Land Reform and Rural Development. The reports point to a pattern in which public servants, their spouses, political connected individuals, and other ineligible beneficiaries who received farms, financial support, livestock, and recapitalization funding contrary to the objectives of land reform and the application lease conditions. During the period in question, the plus lease conditions expressly prohibited public servants and their spouses from benefiting from the program. In Gauteng, a farm 47 Clean Corp was purchased by the Department of for approximately 13 million and was reported allocated through the late Mr. Wesley Monyati to Ms. Talita Monyati, who is employed as an accounts administrator at the CCMA in the Northwest region. It is reported that a 30-year lease was granted in December 2018 despite concerns having been raised by Ms. Rachel Masango, the Provincial Chief Director, the Gauteng Provincial Chief Director, that Ms. Monyati was a public servant and therefore did not qualify to benefit from a PLUS program. It is further reported that in September 2021, the beneficiaries received approximately 300 head of cattle from the Department of Agriculture and Land Reform. According to reports, Ms. Rachel Masango and Mr. Zakele Mklambo had repeatedly been informed of Ms. Munyati's employment status before this support was approved. Another farm, portion 14 of Ziekon Fontaine 673 IQ, was purchased by the Department of Land Reform and Rural Development of approximately 4.4 million and was reportedly allocated to Mr. Jonas Mukoka, whose wife is reported to have held a senior position within the Citibank Traffic Department. It is further alleged that shortly before the COVID-19 pandemic, the farm received approximately 18 million in recapitalization funding, despite the department officials reportedly being aware that the beneficiary's spouse was a public servant and may not have qualified under the program's eligible requirements. Under farm portion 35, 37, 38, 39, and 40 of Gamanland AH were purchased by the Department of Land Reform and Rural Development for approximately 2.3 million and were reportedly acquired through Mr. T. Tobejan for the benefit of Mr. P. Tobejan, an official in the Department of Agriculture. It is reported that Mr. P. Tobejan neither farmed or resided on the property, but nonetheless benefited from both allocation and subsequent recapitalization support. It is further reported that officials from Gauteng Property Support Services later approached the previous owner, Mr. Piet Venter, to collect their 800,000 rand because it was alleged that the purchase price had been artificially inflated. In another farm, portion 5, Galbas Fontaine, it is reported that Mr. Isaac Mohatla was allocated approximately 350 hectares of agricultural land together with the department's support despite his wife being a public servant. According to the allegations, Mr. Mohatla disclosed his wife's employment to the department and was informed that officials were aware of her public service position. Despite this, the land allocation and department support reportedly proceeded. Another farm, yet again, a reed spread farm in Van der Bay Park, it is reported that a farm of more than 500 hectares is leased to the known Dade Isaac who has left it unproductive. According to these reports, the land is currently being utilized by white commercial farmers, while the lease has not been cancelled and the property has not been advertised or made available to qualifying black emerging farmers. It is further reported that Mr. Selvi Rabuda, an extension officer in the Gauteng Department of Land Reform and Rural Development, is aware of the situation. Yet, the Gauteng Provincial State Support Committee has failed to take steps to advertise or reallocate this farm. It is also reported that the VAL Special Economic Zones (SEZs) is leasing portions of a farm to white farmers on one of its farms in Rosashof, Van der Bay Park, while the majority of black communal farmers in the same area are struggling to access long land for grazing. It is further reported that these white farmers are paying lease fees to officials. In 2011, the Department of Rural Development and Land Reform introduced a pilot project in the Free State known as Vukani Project, comprising 11 farms, including Mokachane CPA and Bethani CPA. According to the reports received by the Izwi Labantu Forum, these farms were placed under the management of Mr. Graham Leach of the Bloemfontein Abattoir. It is reported that Mr. Leach and the departmental officials were the only authorized signatories for all project-related matters. It is further reported that after these arrangements were challenged, the project was abruptly discontinued without any explanation. It is further reported that departmental officials registered companies on behalf of the CPAs. For Mokachane CPA, the company Sanco Namix and later Brakwood Pty Ltd was reported registered in the name of the complainant's father, while a company for Bethany CPA was registered in the name of Franz Kralschuk's father. According to the reports, both individuals were initially granted 100% shareholding. Furthermore, it is reported that the same department officials created divisions among CPA members after recapitalization funding was introduced. It is said that officials fueled internal conflict instead of resolving it, and later used these disputes to portray the CPAs as dysfunctional. The individuals named these reports include Mr. Selo Fusi, Ndate Mugu, and Tami Makubalo, and Mr. Stephen Modise. The Izwi Labantu Forum has also received complaints regarding Zobis Fontaine Cooperative in the Senegal, an apple producing farming enterprise. According to the reports, the project, which was managed by Mr. Pito Sekhoto, received funding in excess of 10 million, yet little or no evidence of the intended development can be found on the farm. It is further reported that Mr. Mike Spark has knowledge of these matters and may be able to provide further relevant information if called upon. Furthermore, it is reported that the Department of Land Reform and Rural Development acquired 30% shareholding in the Bloemfontein Abattoir on behalf of the participating farms. According to the reports, no dividends have ever been paid to the beneficiaries, and repeated requests for information were neither ignored or met with dismissive response from Mr. Stephen Modise. These reports warrant a comprehensive and independent investigation to determine whether public funds were properly managed and whether the intended beneficiaries of these programs received the support to which they were entitled to. In the Sesotho local municipality, it is reported that there have been complaints about officials identified as Itumeleng and Molo. It is reported that when there were inquiries about available farms, misleading information was given, only later to discover that the farms that were inquired about had been occupied by white commercial farmers. In conclusion on the Free State, these reports suggest a systematic pattern of irregular conduct in the administration of PLUS program, including the allocation of funds to the public servants and their spouses despite police prohibitions, and allocation of funds to politically connected individuals, the failure to recover and reallocate abandoned and underutilized farms, and the reported manipulation of farms acquisition values and misuse of public funds. Once again, the Izwi Labantu calls on President Cyril Ramaphosa to instruct his Deputy President Paul Mashatile to act on the 14 demands submitted on 21 January 2026 and to appoint a commission of inquiry into corruption in the agricultural sector. Until then, we will convene every Thursday to present further reports detailing who is involved, where public funds are being directed, and how taxpayers' money is being used. Each briefing will focus on the information available at that time and provide updates as additional evidence and reports emerge. But immediately after the media briefing, we go to the police station and we choose the police station of choice, open the cases of everybody that we have mentioned. So that means every Thursday we'll be opening cases against the named people until the president calls for the inquiry, the commission of inquiry into these corruptions, and also until the deputy president attends to the 14 demands that will root out these corruptions. Thank you.